Welcome to Women at Halftime podcast, but not just for women, for you men too. If you're at mid-career or the halftime of life, our inspirational topics are not only fun, but also meant to help you maximize and write your next chapter. Right here with me, Deborah Johnson. Well, hello, Deborah Johnson with you today with another great episode I'm really excited about. It's called The Great Pretender. And the reason I'm excited about it is because as I started writing this, it went a couple different ways that I think really will provide a lot of value for you today. And I hope you stay with me all the way to the end because it's really, I've made some great points in here and some fun little stories and illustrations. And to remind you, I focus on those who are mid-career, halftime of life, but really there's principles to be applied to any time of life. Halftime of life officially comes over the age of 40, which comes very, very soon, by the way. But just, what does your next chapter look like? So that's where I like to focus with some of these principles and the content, the sort of podcast subjects that we approached. So let's go ahead and kind of dive in. The Great Pretender. Well, the Great Pretender takes on many shapes as to the extent and meaning. And pretending is it's an important part of growing up. My grandmother, we called her Mimi, well, she let my sisters and she let us go in her closet so we could play dress up. Well, of course, she was much larger than we were, but she had some fancy clothes, probably purchased at a secondhand store as she lives through the Great Depression in the early 20th century. And I doubt if she ever bought anything new. And to live through the Depression meant that you saved everything from tinfoil to plastic bags to buttons. But what fun we had in her closet. I mean, everything was fancy to us. And Mimi even had a mink stole. Remember those? Those go back. Well, we put on our fashion shows for everyone who was sitting around my grandparents. They had this small Formica kitchen table, and they were probably talking politics as my grandfather, we called him Papa, he was mayor of his small town in Southern California. And I'm sure they all laughed throughout our whole fashion presentation, but we were focused. And since I was the oldest sister, I'd always narrate. Even having our youngest sister dress in our grandfather's baggy clothes. I'm surprised she even didn't put up a fight then, but I guess dressing up, it kept us busy. And it was worth the mess we made. Well, fortunately, we all outgrew that era of pretending. But unfortunately, the principle of being the great pretender is still alive and well. And in many lives today and businesses in an unhealthy way. I see it every day on social media, inflated bios, photos of those who seem to be so much more successful than we are. And I have to admit, I've even been a pretender too in some ways, but hopefully some good ways as well as the ways that are not as admirable. Well, in this episode, this podcast, we will cover characteristics of a person of bad pretense, as well as good pretense that leads to authenticity, growth, and honesty. And I'm gonna hit on 4 main points here. And so 1, bad pretense brings deceptive behavior. Manipulation, deceitful actions, and multiple facades characterize a person who has constant need for validation. And I call those people two-faced. And sometimes it comes from a willingness to take shortcuts, not doing the work it takes to create what is real and authentic success. And the danger lies when there's no longer the desirability and the desire to become to change. And the behavior now has become a habit. It's almost if reality is now distorted like one of those house of mirrors at the fairgrounds where you see yourself distorted in a number of different ways. Chameleon-like behavior causes one to adapt personalities, interests, and values to fit into various social circles to gain acceptance from different groups or individuals. And this brings pressure to always present oneself in a certain light. Anxiety, fear, and emotional detachment can really lead to depression and destructiveness. So what is real anymore? It all becomes such a game to keep up a certain image, lifestyle, or persona. So let's go to the second point, the great pretender. The Pretenders are an English-American rock band that formed in 1978. And Chrissie Hynde, who is the lead vocalist, she has a distinctive low voice that is easily recognizable. And if you've ever turned into the Rush Limbaugh show, now Rush died in 2021, which used to be the highest rated talk show in the United States, well, you've heard this music from the Pretenders used as the theme music. It's just a phrase of it, instrumental. And it's still played at times with the new hosts, Clay and Buck, who were an American vocal, the American vocal group of the Platters were formed in 1952. So this is another group that did a song about pretending. And they were one of the most successful vocal groups in the early rock and roll era, the 1950s. And they recorded a song called The Pretenders in 1955. And the lyrics, written decades ago, are still so telling and relevant for today. And here are some phrases from that song. Pretending that I'm doing well. Lonely, but no one can tell. Adrift in a world of my own, playing the game. The great pretender, laughing like a clown, seemed to be what I'm not. Wearing my heart like a crown. Ooh, those words cut to the heart of what it feels like to be a pretender. Though if being a pretender has become such a part of one's life, those feelings may be discounted. And reality now includes the pressure to uphold a fictional person that will never truly be revealed. And some people take this pretense all the way to the grave. And I've actually played music at some of those services, and it's really pretty sad. They still needed to keep up that pretense. Don't let that happen. Number 3, point 3 here, good pretense to implement change. Well, there's a part of pretending that's good and healthy that includes visualization for change. And adaptive ambition and behavior, it's relevant in implementing that change or adding a new habit. And it includes visualization and tapping into positive emotions with mental pictures of positive change or possibility. And I cover this in some of my books and even my courses. And so, for example, when working to lose weight, the visualization of ourselves wearing a new outfit or participating in active activities, it encourages us to keep working toward our goal. We see children using pretense often when visualizing themselves as an astronaut, a famous pitcher, or whatever. Now, the fictional character, I loved this book actually, but his name was Rudy Steiner in the book Thief. If you've not read that book, you need to pick that one up. It's great. But he was obsessed with the American track athlete, Jesse Owens, who won 4 gold medals in 1936. So he wanted to become an Olympic champion like Jesse Owens. So he'd take on Jesse's character every time he ran. Well, that's healthy if you want to achieve a dream. And dream boards and vision boards with collages of images, pictures, and affirmations of one's dreams and desires, well, those serve as a source of inspiration imagining ourselves in a new home, a car, or performing on large theatrical stages is also a way of using pretending in a healthy manner. It's a part of using our imagination. And I've even used this type of visualization and acting in rehearsing music shows for large stages and speeches. And it was very, very helpful to achieve the outcome I desired. I was able to picture myself in that space. So number 4, dangers for the great pretender. Well, we've already mentioned the danger of how pretending it can become a game or even a way of life in order to keep up a certain image, a lifestyle, or a persona. Also, reality can become extreme. Playing the game charade, which is played by acting out and speaking with pantomime, actually not speaking because you don't speak when you use pantomime. Well, this game often becomes a huge exercise in exaggeration. And the game usually brings on a lot of laughter with descriptions and movements getting more and more extreme. You want your team to guess who you are, what you are. One of the categories represented in the game is a dramatic representation of a character. Now, all participants realize that taking on the persona of a character or even an animal, it's make-believe. However, what has happened in our current society is that there are some that want to attach this reality to what should still be play acting. People are people. Animals are animals. We can still have fun mimicking and acting, as that's healthy, a healthy exercise to create, to laugh and exaggerate. But to be authentic and real, we all need to cross back over that line to look inside ourselves, defining our core values and our purpose. For then, we will no longer be the great pretender. We will have the ability to be authentic. And it won't take a magic fairy like the one in that children's book. Many of you have probably read it growing up, The Velveteen Rabbit. It won't take that magic fairy to make us real. So today we covered bad pretense. We covered The Great Pretender with Chrissie Hynde, the Pretenders, and the lyrics to that Platter song. Good pretense and dangers of pretense. And I encourage you to be real and also inspire those around you to be the same. I wrote a whole chapter in my book, Stop Circling, about core values. It's in the appendix. I felt it was so important as one of those groundworks for our life. And it covers 2 different main categories. One is faith and one is character. And even if we have defined those attributes, those character attributes, the core values before, I encourage you to do this even a couple times a year. Go back to redefining those core values and discover what is real and authentic for you. What do you really want? And I encourage you to do this before you really start developing even more of a purpose and mission. Understand what you are all about. Those values cross over both personally and professionally. They are intertwined in so many different ways. It doesn't matter if you are an entrepreneur. It does not matter if you are a small company or even a very large company. If you're a CEO, CFO, if you are a manager, it doesn't matter. Those core values are extremely important. Some of my core values really consist of my family. And it's why I've made some of the decisions I've made throughout the years of how much touring I was going to do, how much travel I was going to do outside the home. I decided to focus more on what I can do to make sure I was a big part of raising our kids with my husband. So those values are extremely important. So I encourage you, be authentic, be yourself. If you don't know who you are anymore, spend a little time discovering that. Read that book, Stop Circling. I have another great one called Women at Halftime, not just for women. It's also for men. Great book for that. Another book called Bad Code, talking about mental mindsets. That's another great one. Good books. The Summit, The Allegory, which is a wonderful book, really for all stages of life. I also have a very large program called Hero Mountain Summit. I only launch that for individuals twice a year. But make sure you get on our newsletter, goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter. And you will get all of the new updates. You will get free material that I put out. You will get the music. I have a lot of music, especially as I go into the holidays. I promote a lot of music and give away a lot of free stuff. So make sure you are on that. And I encourage you today to be real and not just to be the great pretender. Thanks so much for joining me, and I will really look forward to being with you again next time. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you for joining us. It is because of our wonderful listeners like you that we keep going strong week after week. We'd love it if you'd share and follow us to not miss a single show and even write a review. You can also find all of our articles, products, and links at womenathalftime.com.